here we are in high school, the last 4 years of schooling that the state can make you attend. And then there's what comes after. And for many of you, in fact, for 2/3 of most American high school students, after these days is in the shape of some kind of college or university. But it wasn't always like that. And it might be interesting for you guys to know that this next stage of your learning is entirely voluntary. There's no truant officer or parent who's going to take you out of your dorm room and make you go. It is a choice for you to go. And I think it's a great choice, but it wasn't always the norm. Up until about 50 years ago, people did many things after high school and were very successful. And even today, in our stressful job environment, there are many alternative paths. There's another side of the story, and people who have become very successful taking the road less traveled. And for even here, we know by the statistics that I just told you, that fully 1/3 of you have different hopes and dreams or plans, or maybe you just really don't like school. I hate to break it to the teachers out there. Maybe you're burnt out, you've worked really hard, you just need a break, and you wouldn't be considering college if it weren't for fear about your future. You know, that pressure starts really early. In Maine here, we get a little bit of a break. In other places in the nation, you know, kids are having college counseling in middle school. So that pressure gets really intense, and for what? Because I want to tell you something that you might not know, that out of those 2/3 of people who go to college right after graduation, fully half, that's 50%, are not graduating within 6 years. And many of them don't graduate from the schools that they originally enrolled in. So what's going on? I think that the job market is tough, and a college degree is really important. Even President Obama is telling us this. But the race to get one is wearing too many of you out. It's making you swallow your personal dreams and desires in pursuit of something that is being held out to you as the golden key to adult success. Get that college degree, and you won't wind up living in your parents' basement and working at Taco Bell. Well, I think if you listen to the news reports, you know that even if you get the college degree and take on the debt or, pay for a huge education, you still may be in your parents' basement working at Taco Bell. And honestly, that's okay. Lots of people have, and it won't be forever. I have a friend, Chelsea, who I talked to for the book, who worked really hard, just like you guys. She got into a great college, and she entered their freshman year all gung-ho, and by Thanksgiving, she realized she was fried. She didn't even make it till Christmas. She dropped out. Her parents were furious. They stopped supporting her. She went to the Old Port. She took a day job. And for 3 years, she just made do. She paid rent. She got her bills done. And then she woke up one morning and she thought, I don't want to do this anymore. And she went and she enrolled at USM. And today, she is a fully employed, very well-paid employee at Maine Med. And here's the thing. Does anyone, even her parents who were so mad, does anyone care now that she got her degree at 26 instead of 22? No. There is something that I know about you guys, Generation Z, and that should give you, and will give you a lot of energy to face your future, and that is that you are the largest, most savvy generation to ever hit the planet. You guys can uptake data like no one else before. You are information ninjas. You're doing these jujitsu moves on the internet, and you have extremely long lives to look forward to. What this means is you have access to huge amounts of information, but you also have time. Not only can you use the power of the internet to research volunteer opportunities and woofing in New Zealand while you're watching Russian movies on TV all simultaneously, you also have years and years where you can reinvent yourself and experiment, throw things up against the wall. Your age is actually the entrepreneurial age. It's the age of making things happen by cobbling your experiences together with whatever resources you have to work with. Yes, getting a college degree is important. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I think it is very important. But when you get one, how you get one, and where you get one has never been less important. But that's hard, it's hard. Change is hard for us. That idea of doing something different, taking a different road. We're the only species that taxes our future with forethought of grief. An acorn doesn't sit there thinking like, oh God, what kind of a tree am I going to be? Like, I really want to be a good tree. Or, a lion, like, I sees antelope and like, I have to have that antelope or I'm going to be a loser. I got to get into that antelope club or otherwise eat that antelope. They just don't do it. They just kind of get up and eat an antelope, So we're the only ones who stress about this stuff, and that's because change is hard for us. It's hard for humans. We work really hard, we come up one long road, and then we look around and we have to find another. Some of us may know what that's going to look like. Most of us actually don't. My dad once said that you were doing well if you had a 70% surety of what the next step was going to be. And when you can't figure out what the next thing's going to do, there's this voice that starts to come up in your head, because problems really arise when you don't know what you want to do, or even worse, you secretly really do know what you want to do, but you're denying it to please other people. And then that voice comes up in your head, the should voice, like the line, I should go get that antelope. And that voice is actually, it's common to all of us, and it comes from a part of your brain called the amygdala that hasn't changed in several thousand years, and it modulates the fear response. And that part of your brain, that voice, wants to keep you on your couch watching Netflix, because that's the safest place for you to be. If you're there, you can't get into trouble by doing anything different in any different way. You're always going to be doing the same things in the way that people have told you to do them, that keep your tribe safe. But if you listen to that voice, if you give into it, you won't be doing the choosing. Your fear will. And I know this from firsthand experience, because when I was in high school, I desperately wanted to be an actress. And by senior year, I was dating a guy in a rock band, and my grand post-graduation plan, which I was very proud to tell everybody, was I was going to move into his apartment in Hoboken, New Jersey, and I was going to go on auditions by day and go to his gigs at night and be a groupie. That was my plan. I thought that was a great plan. Well, you can imagine what my parents thought. They were pretty mad, and they really didn't like him. And those were some long and suffering months for me. I eventually appeased them by applying to a college, and I did get in, but I really had no intention of going. Then some months went by, and about a week before the matriculation card had to be mailed in for me to actually go to college, the boyfriend dumped me mercilessly. And I was heartbroken, but my parents were like doing the Snoopy dance. They were just like so excited. And I was torn up. I didn't know what to do. I was tremendously undecided, and I didn't have a backup for my acting career. And I took one look at the landscape around me, and I thought, I can't live with these people because they're going to drive me crazy. So I did what everybody wanted me to do. I packed my bags and I went to college. And sometimes now I still wonder, if I had had more confidence or parental support or my own forms of support, would I be an actress today instead of a writer? But I don't know. I can't tell you, because it was a path I didn't take. And I have no regrets. I don't regret it at all, which is so comforting. Nobody that I spoke to, who are adults now, have any regrets about the choices they made when they were your age. Actually, there was one guy. He had one moment of regret when his bus pulled into basic training camp, and a drill sergeant got on the bus and started yelling in his face, like, "Hey, soldier!" Again. He said, yeah, I knew then that maybe I'd made a mistake. And then he's told me that everybody who joins the military has that one moment where they think, what the hell have I done? But it passed. He has no regrets now, and he owns his own IT business, and he's still a great shot. So he's happy with his choice. And another man that I talked to, he failed out of college, just flat out failed freshman year. And he decided to take himself on a ride on his bike cross country from the East Coast to the West Coast into the wind. And he describes the ride, and it sounded like the most miserable, grueling, unhappy experience one could ever choose to do. But the whole time he was telling me he's beaming. He loved every minute of it. And he came back, he went back to college, he graduated magna cum laude, and today he's a high school guidance counselor. So what does this tell you? It tells you that there are really no bad decisions when you're your age, except those that might land you or someone else in jail, in rehab, or in the morgue. Please stay away from those decisions, and I think you're going to be fine. After all, it is in our nature to evolve, to burst out of old containers and set out radical new shoots and leaves. And all those feelings that you're feeling, the mixed up, torn up, get that SAT prep book away from me, I don't want to talk about my future, if I hear the word college again, I'm going to explode. All those feelings are just you guys putting out your new shoots and leaves and trying to find new containers. So how do you do this? How do you walk a twisty path and not take the what I call the cradle to college to carpool to casket line? You know, is there a way around that? Of course there is. And that is to just go out and do something. You know, fly your freak flag. We've had so many examples of this today. I mean, there's so many things out there. You know, dive off of Fort Williams and work at a local surf shop. Take a year off and travel to learn a language or go to a different place. You know, take a day job and write a screenplay at night with Maine Media Workshop. You walk the Appalachian Trail. Do stand-up with Tim Farrell. There are so many organizations, you know, and so many ways that you can get engaged. You can volunteer in Guatemala, or you can volunteer in rural Maine. You can paint houses. You can work in a restaurant. You can make sculpture. You can actually do nothing. There was a book written by a guy who for 1 year watched one movie a day with his father. That was his post-graduation plan. He watched 365 movies, and he wrote a book about it. So there you go. The point is that there are many people and many organizations, and I am certainly one of them, who are out here waiting and willing to help you figure what your next step is, who will help you design gap years, leap years, years of self-discovery. And it's more and more common. And colleges love it, absolutely love it. They don't want kids who aren't ready. Kids who tend to take time off graduate with a GPA a full 1 to 1.5 higher than kids who don't. So to keep that in mind. But I also know that I'm up here telling you to do something that I really didn't do at your age. You know, took the straight and narrow path. So it's really hard. It's really hard to do. And I want you, when you're thinking about all this stuff, to just ask yourself, if you think it's hard now to take a year or two off and experiment and start a business or climb Mount Kilimanjaro, think about what it's going to be like 30 years from now when you're like me and you have children and a spouse and property tax to pay. You're not going to do it. It's impossible. I'll tell you that. Not impossible, but much harder. So, you know, just keep your mind open to the fact that where you are is actually a terrific place to try some of this stuff. Because I think that one of the ways that you can help yourself do this, one of the ways you can put one foot in front of the other is to, and this is actually the hardest thing, I think, and I'm in listening to all the speakers today, I realized that it's very hard for people to share who they really are. But that is actually the beginning of what we're talking about here, is to begin to talk about who you really are away from the herd, with your parents, with your peers, with your teachers, and then craft a little plan, a tiny little plan. You know, it can be a plan as stupid as mine was, which was like, I never want to have a job where I have to wear pantyhose. That was it. You know, that was my plan. And once you make that plan, make sure it jives with your values so that you don't recklessly damage yourself or other people or the planet. And then there's a third thing, which is to be, well, it's sort of my personal mantra, and it's to be less afraid of the zombie apocalypse happening and more afraid of becoming a zombie yourself. To understand that in the vast scope of history and the universe, nobody really is keeping score. You know, does anybody in this audience know what Napoleon did after high school, or Beyonce, or Bill Clinton, or Steven Spielberg, or, you know, I mean, I'm sure there are some of you who do, but like, really, do we really care? No, I mean, you know, it doesn't matter. So keep that in mind, that we are, as a friend recently wrote to me, just ghosts driving meat trucks made of stardust. And so if I can send you off with one piece of advice, my little meat trucks made of stardust. It's to just put yourself out there 1 foot at a time and do something. Move forward. You don't even have to know what direction you're going. Just move. You will possibly face financial hardships. You may get heartbroken. You may feel cheated and afraid. But you will also really feel alive. And if you feel alive, if you are alive, you will always have the capacity to overcome hardship and find joy in whatever it is you do. And even in the worst of times, if you just keep moving, soon enough you'll find yourself somewhere else entirely. And how cool is that? Thank you.